Good evening from the UK and welcome to Open Minds Chat Show. We are live streaming on Facebook on the Open Minds page and on YouTube, Open Minds YouTube. Hi and good evening. First of all, I'm going to advertise myself. Again, I've created a new podcast. It's Open Minds Podcast that will be coming out soon, and it's called Waking the Dead Ghost Stories and the Paranormal. On there is an email. It's openmindspodcast@outlook.com. If you have any riveting ghost stories or paranormal experiences you would like to share, email me. Give me as much detail as possible, and I will select from the emails. I've had quite a few come in already, which I think are the best, and then I will invite you for a quick chat and bring you on to the podcast. The podcast is only audio, so we won't show our mugshots. But yes, so if you do have a ghost story or a paranormal experience, email me at openmindspodcast@outlook.com. Now I've got that out of the way, advertising myself for free, I would like to welcome an amazing person. Okay, I'm going to say he's crazy, by the way, but he's amazing. And he's called A Projection of You. Omar, welcome to Open Minds Chat Show, sweetie. You're coming
Thank you, Gloria. It's nice to be here. Sorry, I was just sharing the link out to Telegram and stuff.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having me here. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to engaging you in a beautiful, enlightening conversation.
Well, no pressure there then, okay? No pressure on you, not me. I'm just Gloria. You know that. I'm just Gloria. So anyway, let's kick this off. So I'm gonna just kick it off with a question, Omar. Where did your journey begin? Where did it all begin?
Well, it happened a couple of times to me. I woke up once, and unfortunately, I fell back asleep, and then I woke up again, and thankfully, I've remained awoke since then. My first awakening was around 1994, 1993, and some weird things were happening back then that I didn't fully understand as to what was happening. But then a few months later, after that, I kind of just went back into the program and just kind of fell asleep and stayed there until.
Can I ask you? Hold on, hold your horses. Can I ask you? Can you share with us a little bit of what actually happened? Because I know from my personal journey, it's like increments. You go along, and boom, boom, and it shuts down. So for you, what was that first one?
Well, I got introduced to meditating from my best friend's mom. And I began practicing that, and I enjoyed it. And I would meditate, 2-3 times a day back in those days. And this one day, I was laying on a park bench. It was super hot outside. Must have been, I don't know, 40, 45 degrees outside. This was in the Okanagan in British Columbia.
Yeah.
Very, very hot area. Anyways, I was laying there and I was meditating, and my bestie had gone to the store to grab us some munchies, chocolate milk chips and things like that. And when he left, I told him that I'm going to do a little bit of meditation. So he took off, and I was laying there and I was meditating, and I'm not really quite sure how long I was meditating for. But, when he showed back up, it was almost like I was levitating myself, that I'd lifted myself up off the bench, not too much. I would say maybe a half an inch to maybe an inch, because when he came and he called out my name, my concentration was broken, and I fell, right? When I dropped like this, I felt my head, the base of my neck, my tailbone, and my heels hit the bench like that, right? So, and I didn't really think about that too much up until just recently.
Yeah.
And what happened after that was I began to, see these things, and began to, I would say a download that was coming my way. But back in those days, I, truly didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there one day, and we were in a pizza shop with, no, actually, this was the day after, the day before, or a few days before. I was sitting with my bestie, and And just out of the blue, I blurted out to him and I said, I think Princess Diana is gonna die here in the next couple of few days.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, whatever, because he was sleep as well, right? So a few days later, we were sitting in this pizza shop called Peachland Pizza, and I had my back turned to the TV, and he was facing me, and he was watching the TV, and the news came out that Princess Diana had died in a car accident in France, and his face just went totally white. He was looking at me, and I was like, "What?" And then he's like, "Princess Diana just died." Right? I was like, "Hoo-ah," and I turned around and I started watching, and even then, I fully really didn't realize as to like what was happening, and I was like, "Hoo-ah," and as I was watching, everything went black, and all of a sudden I started to get another a piece of information. It was almost like I was being informed, and I looked over at my buddy Mike, and I said, I said, I think Mother Teresa is going to die from a heart failure in the next couple of days. And he's like, "Oh, don't be predicting that kind of shit, because you already predicted one and she died, and then now you're saying this." And as sure as the sky is blue, a couple of days later, the news came in that that Mother Teresa had actually died from a heart failure. And even then, it really didn't resonate with me as to like really what happened, and I didn't understand it. And after that, I kind of just went back into the abyss and just remained asleep and stayed there for many, many, many years. I went traveling, and I just traveled Europe. I was all over America, and all was handy. I was all good. And then when I hooked up with my wife in 2008, right? It was around that time, around 2008, 2009, that my eyes began to open. Especially, my wife introduced me to the show Ancient Aliens. And
Oh God, yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was watching that, and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool. This is crazy, but this is really cool." So we watched a couple of shows, and then we started to watch it regularly. And as I was watching it, things just began to happen. I just don't understand exactly what the process took place, but it was almost like, suddenly my eyes opened up and I became aware of myself rather than aware of what's happening around me. It just my own awareness came to light, and then after that, it just seems like I was getting just information, just downloads and downloads, and I began reading a lot of books, watching a lot of documentaries, and somehow I just knew things. I don't know how I knew these things. I just knew these things. Like, it was insane about ancient civilizations and UFOs and the nuts and bolts of UFOs, and I didn't really question as to where this information's coming from, but I just rolled with it. I was like, okay, well, this is good. And then as we were watching all these Ancient Aliens shows, my wife, leading up to that point, was telling me about the experiences that she's had since childhood of missing time, having these strange dreams, men in white coats standing over her. Sometimes they're chasing her, sometimes she's hiding. Right. So, I was like, I got to try to figure this out. Like, what's happening with you? Right. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to start a podcast. And then I'm going to speak to researchers and authors and people who are involved in this type of research to try to get a grip on what's happening and try to understand as to what's happening with my wife. Right. So she was really the motivation behind Watchers Talk. And so I started the Watchers Talk, and I began speaking to authors and researchers, and they started telling me about UFOs and their experiences of missing time. And then after the shows, I would talk to my wife about it, and then we'd go back and forth, and she'd say, okay, well, this is happening, and I would say, well, this person told me this and this person told me that. We would try to connect the dots. Right. And then after a while, I forgot who it was, but it was like another enlightening moment for me, where I went from the nuts and bolts of UFOs into the conscious arena of the UFOs, to really fully understand as to what's happening. And then when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's crazy that this can actually happen,
Mm-hmm.
where you're being physically taken, and then after some time, that physical experience is turning more into a conscious experience
Yeah,
where
I mean,
you're.
that is something I've spoke about a lot, and I for myself,
Mhm,
obviously the guests that have come on the show, and after a while, you do tend to realize that after each contact, no matter how, what, when, and where, there's I just use terminologies like there's a conscious expansion. Your reality shifts. You know more. Become aware more. You see what is hidden. I mean, I can't even find the words, but that is a common phenomena. And for me, that's why back in the day, because I'm slightly older than you, Omar, not much, maybe a couple of months. Um, when I went and I sort of first checked into ufology, I couldn't resonate with them because they didn't want to know about consciousness. They didn't want to know about what what was the effect from point A to point B. What was it? And I pulled back. And that back in the day, there wasn't many that would have that conversation about consciousness. So I went to Papa G, Muji, all the, Eckhart Tolle. I went that way to self-realization because I couldn't find it anywhere what we would normally say in alternative media, the ones that we all communicate with now.
mhm.
Does that resonate with you? That
Yeah, it it truly does, because when I became aware of the consciousness aspect of
mm,
ET contact,
yeah,
that really blew my mind right open, because there was just so much information that came in that I really couldn't process that
no,
information.
no,
So what I had to do was I went internally,
mm,
right? Because I was already familiar with meditations and such, and I didn't meditate for a very long time, and actually I still don't.
mm,
What I do now is I go into a state of a daydream, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
I maintain that space for about 10-15 minutes, listening to
yeah,
alms and such, and
yeah,
then I come back, and it was through that experience that I really began to process what I was hearing from the
yeah,
speakers that I was speaking to, that were telling me that this is all conscious based, is that it has to do with high vibration, and
yeah,
has to do with frequencies, and then your
yeah,
willingness to attract
yeah,
these ETs, and
yeah,
and the DNA activations and things
yeah,
like that.
mhm,
And I understood as to what they were talking about,
yeah,
that that these conscious experiences are more telepathic experiences,
yeah,
where they're showing you
mm,
their area, and then you think that you're in their area, but you're actually not, that you're still where you are.
yeah,
But this is more of a like a 5D type
yeah,
of experience that you're
mhm.
having. And to be honest, Gloria, I still don't understand it,
No,
right? Even though I've done so much research into it,
I
I'm
tell
still
you,
not.
I've given up, and I just go around now with going through self-realization and everything else, and I go, I don't know what the fuck's going on, to be honest. And I just let it all come, because the nearest I can get to even explain with ET is, like from we're talking about a different timeline we're in. We're not in the old. We can't explain it. It's extremely hard to articulate it, but it's like we're in this timeline, and we're watching a movie of the old timeline where they're all doing what they need to do.
Hmm.
So I take that analogy of that, which is, I know it's not brilliant, guys, but it's the best I can do at the moment. And with ET, like you said about we're not really going anywhere either, I use the analogy, then it's the same thing when ET comes through. It's like, but it's like two timelines merging in one.
Hmm.
And that resonates for my truth, because as a medium, and when I was doing readings, I don't do them at the moment. Um, I would have like a Sherman tank in my front room, or I'd have, with soldiers, I'd have a battlefield as they're talking, the spirit, at the same time being in my front room. Very hard, very crazy. I know, you couldn't make this shit up. So I now say it's like two timelines or two frequencies, yeah, blending together. So you don't actually physically, there's no physically going anywhere, guys. It's all consciousness, but it's like the merging of two, and then it steps away. Very similar to like while we're on this timeline, as we've left that timeline, sometimes we step back in and then we step back out. Does that make sense to you? What I'm trying to find the
Yeah. What you're saying, I explored that, very thing that you're saying, and what I came up with is that is the flux of the two timelines, kind of like
yeah,
a sine wave,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
if you have a sine wave that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
going like this, and then you
yeah,
have another one that's going like that, and then
yeah,
they merge, they come together,
yes,
and then you
yeah,
experience that, and
yeah,
then it just goes back to its normal, and then
absolutely,
it just
yeah,
simply disappears.
yeah,
I know exactly what
yeah.
you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds crazy, but that's the only way I can articulate the experience of the contact with these other beings. I mean, and when you get to that stage, I mean, come on, Omar, then you think anything is possible,
Hmm.
anything, and all probabilities are possible. It's an eye opener. It's, well, I call it a freedom. It's like freedom. It's fuck it. It's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the cussing a lot, but it's like a freedom that gives you an expansion that, oh my God, so I am at all places, all times. It starts that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does, because we really are in all places at the same time,
Yeah,
because we share the energy
yeah,
of the source, right?
yeah,
And because we share the energy of the source, that means that I am here in
yeah,
my house, and
yeah,
I'm also where you are, and I'm
yeah,
also in Andromeda, and I'm
yeah,
also in a different
yeah,
universe, and I'm also in a
yeah,
different dimension,
yeah,
existing all at the same time. But I
yeah,
think the problem that we're facing is this separation of
yeah,
individuality, that we
yeah,
think that we're individuals, that we think
yes,
that we're
yeah,
separate from the source, which is really a brainwash program to
yeah,
make you think that you're separate,
yeah,
because of all of these dogmas that are out there
yeah.
with
No,
religious
I
beliefs and
agree.
all of that,
Yeah,
right? And then they're
I
trying to separate us, instead of telling us that
yeah,
we're part of the one having this human experience,
yeah,
but you're really an energetic
yeah,
being that exists in the omniverse at all
yes.
times, in the past, the present, the future.
Future, all timelines, all
That's right.
dimensions, whatever term. I mean, it's obviously been part of the. I use the analogy. I don't know if I used it on your show before, but I use the analogy for those that want to learn more about this. Is if you have a ball of energy, which is the source. There's the source, creator source or God, whatever you want to call it, and put a colander over with all the holes, then add all the beams of
Hmm.
white come out. Each one is an individual entity of some description. So, and then you take on the role, the mask goes on, I'm going to play Gloria and you're going to play Omar, but being aware in the back, yeah, of, or not when you first come in. When you first come in, you've got to experience being human. It's the whole point of the play, should I say, or the movie. But yeah, but that's really hard to articulate to someone. And as you said, the programming is you're stupid, you're weak, you're no good, you've got to do it. And but that is the program that we've
Hmm.
come into. We are, consciousness. I said I want to go and experience this. To see me at all times in all places. But when we come in, we don't forget, because conscious can't forget. We just mask ourselves. We mask ourselves, and every so often we sort of go boo, yeah, like you were saying about laying on the bench. Them sort of experiences is you have already decided, you've written the script, just a bit here, just a bit here.
Hmm.
So it's all positive, guys, at the very end, by the way, because consciousness is all things. It can't die and it can't go wrong. So I can imagine how that experience with you when you got into consciousness, because I know what it did to me, and so many more of my other guests started to shift you. So did you stay on your first podcast, or did you start? I want to ask this from personally, because I keep creating. Did you start creating other things each time this come through?
I just want to just go back really
Yeah,
quickly to the analogy that you're using. I use the same type of analogy
yeah,
to try to explain to someone, but what I tell them is that imagine a disco ball, and
yeah,
then that disco ball that's spinning, and then
yeah,
all
yeah,
those beams of
yeah,
lights that are
yeah,
coming off of you.
yeah,
That beam of light is you.
yeah,
That beam of light is you, and that beam of light
yeah,
is you, is because
yeah,
it's coming from that same
yeah,
source.
yeah,
Right, so that's a beautiful analogy,
yeah,
and I use it as much as I
yeah,
can to
yeah,
try to explain
yeah,
to people about being one.
yeah.
Now,
No,
to
I hear
answer
you.
your
I hear you.
question, yeah, now to answer your question,
Mm,
what I did was I kind of stuck with UFO and alien shows for about a good year, and because I really wanted to understand that. But
mm,
once I was exposed to the idea of consciousness, then there was a radical change that happened on my network, on my show, where I suddenly went from talking about UFOs and aliens
yeah.
to speaking about our ancient civilizations, because I
Yes.
thought that because the ancients knew what they were talking about, because they had the knowledge
Yeah.
and that knowledge has been suppressed, I should try to understand that knowledge.
Yeah.
Because somehow, some way, I kind of had that information in my mind, and all
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
needed was a
Yeah.
little bit of
Yeah.
awareness to it
Yeah.
for it to come to light. So I started doing that for like another good year, year and a half,
Mhm.
and then from there, finally, when I caught on to what was happening, suddenly my show changed to just consciousness, and that's
Yeah.
it. I'm exploring
Yeah.
consciousness in like
Yeah.
every aspect that I can possibly think
Yeah.
of, from
Yeah.
pyramids to giants to
Yeah.
ETs, and
Yeah.
so there was a radical change, and it
Yeah.
seems like
I
it was
I
a
call it
step
like
up program too.
a quantum leap, like a totally.
Yeah.
You haven't come away from what you're doing, but you've got this pull to go somewhere else. In
Yeah,
a
and I'm
sense of,
still trying to
yeah.
connect the dots to that,
Yeah.
right? To my original shows, and I'm doing
Yeah.
new shows and talking about new
Yeah.
things. And then when my speaker says something, I think about what my speaker said like 5, 6, 7 years ago about my
Yeah.
UFOs, and I would say, "Hey, wait a minute, this guy
Yeah.
said this, this, and this. You're
Yeah.
saying this very same thing." So I'm still trying to connect the dots
Yeah.
and trying to
I'm with you.
understand
I'm with you.
as to like what's really going on,
Yeah.
right? And I found an interesting thing in this while I was researching this, and that a lot of these ET experiences and that and people are having, it uh, it's more of a hereditary thing that's going
Yeah.
on, right? I found that 80% of people who have said that they've been abducted or have had some
Mm,
sort of an ET
mm,
experience is mostly women,
yeah.
and it's hereditary. Where if you've had this experience, and chances are
Yeah.
that your mom, your sister,
Yeah.
your auntie, your
Yeah.
daughter will all have this
Yeah.
experience. So it seems
I.
like it's
Yeah.
it's an ongoing thing
Yeah.
from
It's my
whoever knows how long.
My brother was aware. He's passed now. He was older than I. My brother was. I remember, obviously, when I was young. I was about 21 when I spoke to him about this. So he knew I saw what we call back in the day dead people. So I was didn't know what a medium was, but I saw dead people.
Mhm.
And he come up to me one day and he was saying, "Sis," he said, "these beings are coming and they're like," and I think the word was like alien. And he said, "They're telling me these sciences," and he just talking, and I'm looking at him going, in my head, "You're mad, you're crazy." It's ironic, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I didn't have the realization that I'd been contacted since childhood. Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, and I walked away and I said to my ex-husband, he's mad. He's lost it. He's definitely schizophrenic. Okay? Hello. And it wasn't until 1987 or somewhere around that, and when I saw Whitley Strieber's book with the communion with the, I died because I recognized the face, and they weren't all spirits I'd been communicating with. They're coming through the wall, the big almond eyes. But I was laughing at him. So it's amazing. And so then I started to connect the dots that way from my journey. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I find that as your self-awareness increases,
mm,
it seems that you tend to get more downloads,
yeah,
tend to understand
yeah,
information on a
yeah,
much deeper level.
yeah,
But it doesn't happen all the time. Like, I can hear something on my show from, like, say, a year ago
yeah,
that
yeah,
that I had questions about,
yeah,
that I didn't really fully understand as
mm,
to what my speaker was telling me. But then, as the awareness increases and that access to that consciousness is increased, then all of these things begin to make sense,
Their
right? Like,
deeper understanding of them, a deeper understanding.
Yeah, like I listened to, and talked to Phil Gruber, and the things that he was saying was just like over my head, right? But then a year later, the things that he was talking about suddenly began to make a lot of sense to me, because I came across the root races, and Phil was talking about root races, and I was like, what are root races? Like, fuck is this guy talking about? Right? And then a year later, I came across some information, and then I went back and I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. And I had to go back and rewatch his video. And that's the increase of awareness, right? And I think information comes in, just like as in your case, as your awareness increased, you were more susceptible to knowledge and to understanding the information that you're coming across.
And each time, do you find, I mean, we're staying, each time, well, at one point I would get it in hindsight, which is a bitch, but now I'm fully aware, like in the now when it's happening and the knowing's there, and it's not like before, it's just direct now. But each time when I look back on the experiences going through this, is every time, as I said earlier on, something shifts inside. It's either a knowing, or you start attracting. You think it's like you're a child playing with a new toy. You don't actually, I don't follow any mantras or nothing, but I would desire a passion for something, and boom, I'd find it. It would happen. Or I'd attract a certain person into my life. And I wasn't, at the time, I was going, well, that's weird. I just thought of that. But obviously that, that has just expanded exponentially to, like, careful what your thoughts come out, because vroom, you know it's Did you find that as you went along? Because I know many of my guests have as well. That
happens to me all the time, and I really began noticing this when I was researching Saturn. And I wanted to understand the Saturn moon matrix and Saturn worship and all of that. So as I was doing this, my wife and I, actually, we were both doing this at the same time. And before I was doing this, I had no understanding of Saturn whatsoever. I wasn't seeing any posts, I wasn't seeing any articles, any videos, anything like that. But then when I began exploring Saturn, all of a sudden, I was seeing Saturn feeds coming through. I was seeing Saturn videos coming through. Now, I don't know if that's the algorithm that's picking up my research, or whatever the case may be. But the weird thing is that when my wife and I, we would walk around, or when she would go for a walk herself, we became aware. And then she would say, "Hey, honey, I saw this logo over here, that you were watching this logo on the internet, and this was happening, and this was happening." And then all of a sudden, the synchronicity began to happen, where the people began to contact me with information that they had about Saturn, and they wanted to come on the show and talk about Saturn. But that's not the only thing. It's happened. It happens to me all the time. And I think what's happening is that, and because the power of our being, and the power of our mind, and the power of our brain and our consciousness, I think what happens is that when you begin to focus in on a particular thing, a particular idea, then that energy begins to manifest itself. And like the law of attraction, it goes out and then it comes back, kind of like a flux, right? It's going in and out, in and out.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I find is happening. Like, for instance, with the event that I'm creating, it just happened. And just like that, I thought about it, and then once I thought about it, suddenly everything was just coming in. It was coming in so fast that I can't keep up with it.
I mean, that's how Open Mind started. It was, I had a contact experience around about the Christmas time. Open Minds, next month, it's the first year, and it was quite profound, to be honest. I knew something, I'd been given something, I didn't know what, and then I got up one day and it come out my mouth. I'd never done podcasts or shows ever before. And I also still had a bit of body dysmorphia. And I just, to a friend of mine, said, I'm going to start a live TV chat show. And as I was saying it, I'm going, who the fuck is saying that? What am I doing? Panic. And next thing I know, I was live, and it just keeps going. And I'd learned from non-duality to allow and allow, and then but I couldn't watch myself at the beginning, and
I
I don't know
still
which.
can't.
Yeah, there was one guest, I can't remember which it was at the very beginning, the first, say the first 6 months. And after I recorded the show, I thought, I really want to watch that because I want to. So I went back in just to listen to the guest, and I totally forgot it was me interviewing the guest. And halfway through or something like that, I went, wow, she's really good. She's getting that out of him. She's asking, and I went, oh, fuck, that's me. And I went, oh my God, I'm on camera. How you can't make this shit up. But it was
No, you can't.
it was at that moment. I didn't have no makeup on. I hadn't done my hair fancy. I hadn't, like you normally, because you think if you're going to host a show and you're female, you've got to get dolled up a bit, baby. I
Yeah,
wasn't.
absolutely.
My being went in, and then it just went on. I had all these guests coming on, from Mary Rodwell to everyone, on, and then it happened again with Inception. I had a contact. I knew something was coming, and then I created within 24 hours, 12 hours actually. I'd done the trailer, I'd done everything, and I knew it was to talk about consciousness. I knew the 8 door. It's called 8 Doors. I knew, and then boom, it's gone. So this is what I'm trying to raise for anyone in the audience. It happens like that, and it's for me. My truth is, and you don't have to agree. When you're in the human identity and you're doing the law of attraction, it does work. But it's if you believe as a human that you have to wait for the universe to do this, to do this, to do this, then that's what you're going to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, in the timeline you think you're in, time space continuum, you will get there. But I was once that, and now there is no universe. Doesn't have to do anything. I am that, and it's boom. It's
It just manifests itself. Yeah,
it
I know
manifests.
exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about, Gloria, and I kind of went through the same thing.
Yeah.
When I first started my Watchers Talk, I think it took me a good 1.5 to 2 years to even put myself on the screen.
Yeah.
I just had my guest full screen, and I would be
Yeah.
just audio only, and
Yeah.
I maintained that for a very, very long time. And then I forgot who it was with, but I think it was my buddy Aaron Fowler that
Yeah.
he invited me onto his show as a guest. And when I came on, I just turned my camera on for whatever reason, because
Yeah.
prior to that, I'd never turned it on, and I turned it
Yeah.
on, and I started talking, and I've actually left the camera on since then. But
Yeah.
there's one thing that I just simply I can't do is go back and rewatch some of my own shows, right? In fact, all of them. And usually what I do is, even if I am watching one of my shows, is that every time I start to talk, I mute myself, and then I wait until I'm done, and then I unmute myself so that I can hear what the guest has to tell me, and then I mute myself again. For some reason,
Yeah.
I just can't seem to listen to myself,
Yeah.
right? Coming on the TV is it really,
I hear you. I mean,
yeah,
it was like
it clashes with my vibration somehow, right?
Yeah.
I can't.
It will. You will overcome it because
Mhm.
who you are. You will overcome it. But I mean, for me, I was thrown in the deep end, as you say. But I couldn't watch any of it for months. I just couldn't look at. I couldn't. I was hearing feedback, and guests wanted to come on. That you're doing a great job. That was fine. But I can't for the life of me recall which. There was a guest I had on, and I was so intrigued and engrossed in listening. Information was expanding me, and that's what all our guests do. Their reflections expanding. And I went back and I listened, and I just watched it and totally forgot it was me. So I become the observer. I become the observer. I don't watch all of them. Only if afterwards something, I must go back and watch that. But I'm not actually watching me. I'm watching the guest.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to the guest. So eventually, I understand what you said. Eventually, you'll do what you did with the video camera.
Mhm.
One day you won't mute it.
Yeah,
You
just turned it on, and that
yeah,
was it. There was no looking back. You know, the
yeah,
videos that I do watch are the events that I do.
yeah,
You know, sometimes
yeah,
they're a day long, sometimes they're 2 5 days long,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
know, as you're doing events, you really, because you're so busy
Mm,
monitoring chats and you know
yeah,
moderating, listening to the speaker,
yeah.
making sure that the questions are coming up, that you
You've
really don't
got
get
no
the
time to
chance.
focus on your fear or anything at all.
Yeah, you don't
You're
get the
just in the
chance to
moment. Yeah,
really take
mm,
in what the speaker is
yeah,
saying, right? So
yeah,
usually after my event is done, I will go back and I'll watch those videos. But then again, you know, I'll mute myself anytime I
yeah,
talk. But the good thing about events is that when my speaker comes on, it's their stage for an hour. There's like nothing out of me, and you know, towards the last 5 10 minutes, I'll jump in. I'll
yeah,
have some questions that
yeah,
I'm tossing in from the
yeah, yeah,
crowd, and that's it. So I can sit there and I can watch those, and
yeah,
then when I watch those, that's when really the information is registering. I'm taking
yeah.
mental
I'm
notes
with you.
and
I'm with you.
understanding what the speaker is trying to tell me, right? But
Yeah,
during the events, it's extremely difficult to really take in everything
yeah,
what
yeah,
people are saying, especially when
yeah.
you have like 30 40 50 people that are
Well,
speaking.
yeah. I
It's
mean, yeah,
tough
it's
to,
impossible. Yeah,
yeah, very 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 tough to do. And earlier when you were you know talking about you know the universe working for you, I've you know I've come up with a workshop and a bit of a course, and I call that the self trinity.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what the self trinity is the thought, right? Your thought.
mm,
Separate yourself from your thought,
mm,
because you have this constant stream of
mm,
you know thought that's constantly running through your mind.
mm,
And you know
mm,
people, you know, sometimes I come across people that say you know, how can I stop my mind
yeah,
from running? You know, my answer to that is always like, you just simply can't do that, because
mm,
the human avatar has taken millions and millions and millions of years to be
mm,
in the perfect
mm,
form that it is
yeah,
now. So
yeah,
why would we want to stop those thoughts from
yeah,
coming in
yeah,
when it's been
yeah,
taken millions of years?
yeah,
So what we need to do is that we need to go internal and then separate ourselves from
yeah,
that stream of thought
yeah,
that's coming,
yeah,
so that those streams of thought are not writing your story, that in
yeah.
fact your
That's
own
the
thoughts
one.
are
Yeah,
writing your story. So
yeah,
what I say is, you know, first align your thoughts, make sure that your thoughts are centered, and then once
mm,
your thoughts are centered, then your body avatar will
mm,
center itself to your
yeah,
thoughts,
yeah,
because you know that's what it wants to do.
mm,
And then once a body avatar is aligned with your thoughts, then your rainbow body, your light body,
mm,
begins to, you know, distort
mm.
a little bit differently, and it begins to align
Interesting.
itself
Yeah,
to the thought and the body
yeah,
avatar. And once that happens, you know, the trinity is complete. And then once that trinity is complete and you're aware of your thoughts on a constant basis,
mm,
then what happens is the universe that's behind you suddenly shifts like this, and you know it goes up and down to make sure
mm,
that it comes to center with you. And at that point you become the center of that
yeah,
universe, and then that universe begins
yeah,
to work for you. So when you put out a thought, say, okay, well, you know, I really want a new microphone,
yeah,
and you believe the fact that you have
yeah,
that microphone, that it's here, you're
yeah,
speaking into it,
yeah, yeah.
somehow some way over the course of next little
It will
while,
happen. It will
that,
happen.
yeah, that microphone
And
will
don't put a
manifest itself.
time on it. I don't put a time on
No,
it.
same here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
That
put out an
you know, because
intention
that's an
couple.
outcome. You just know it's going to happen,
That's
and you
right.
live it as if it's happened. That is yeah, that's. I like your analogy. I
Yeah.
use a slightly different one. I do use the word the Trinity, but a slightly different. But I like that. That's for me how it just works.
Mm-hmm.
And but one thing I find, not that you can, I suppose you could if you tried hard to become irresponsible, but you start taking responsibility when you step through that door.
Yeah,
There's a
that's right.
response more. You start a responsibility or accountability because you start to realize. For me, you know, I will say thoughts or words or frequency, and it's like alchemy. It's magic, and when you put certain things together, you're vibrating at a certain frequency, it can affect other energies around. So I love your analogy, but yeah, for me, I resonate with it totally. Just I just say it's slightly different. But the attraction, I'm saying, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But it's not just that; it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming. I've spoken. Obviously, I run groups for mediums and experiencers as well. It's when you come into that process, how did when you were going down that path, is every I'm not saying they're gifts, because they're not gifts, that's who we are. You've got psychic, we call it psychic abilities, um, telepathy, remote viewing, all of them, and we're just giving them labels, yeah. But that is what these ETs are anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That enhances the more the self-realization, that you could just look at a person, and you're like scanning that energy, and a knowing, you just know. Did you find that started to increase the more that your consciousness um, went down? What, I don't even know what to call it. Let's call it a rabbit hole. Did you find that started to happen to you? This
Yeah,
intuitive sixth sense
yeah,
increase?
I find that I'm intuitively being really, aware my
Yeah,
entire life. Even though
yeah,
when I was asleep,
yeah,
I was still aware to the point where I didn't understand what I was doing at that time,
yeah, yeah,
where I could look at a person and I can feel the energy coming off
yeah,
of them. And in
yeah,
fact, I'm very empathic as well,
yeah,
where I can feel their
yeah,
energy, I can feel their
yeah,
emotion, I can
yeah,
feel
yeah,
their senses.
yeah,
And I really didn't catch that until very recently. But now that I'm aware of it, I know what to look for. Like I
yeah,
can look at my wife and I would know
yeah,
what level she's vibrating at, or I
yeah,
could
yeah,
go outside and see my neighbor and understand
yeah,
at which level that
yeah,
their distortion is at.
yeah.
So I've become really inclined and sensitive to it as well,
Yes,
because
that's the
what I
word,
find is that
sensitive.
if somebody has that negative energy
Mm,
around me, it really, really affects me, and to the
yeah,
point where my mind starts to go in circles because it
yeah,
doesn't know what to do with it. Because in
yeah,
my mind, I'm telling myself that remain positive, stay with the love frequency, even though someone's angry or whatever
mm,
around me, and
mm,
that wants to really interject with what I'm doing, right?
mm,
So I have to really almost fight, right?
mm,
It's almost like an archonic attack where, I literally have to go into my mind and I have to stop myself from feeling that energy and
mm,
then respond with the love energy, right? Or
mm.
respond with a joke so that somebody will laugh to change that
Yeah,
atmosphere around
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear
Yeah,
you.
become very, very
I-
susceptible to
It's
that.
it really, people. It isn't really all love and light. Let me tell you.
No, it's
Um,
not.
it's not love and light at all. That you can't deny that. We were. I will say I'm still an arsehole sometimes, but I used to be the biggest arsehole back in the day, and I'd piss off everybody with my negative victim energy. But when I encounter, not very rarely, I don't even call it negative anymore. A being will be in a certain frequency, and I go, I'm fucking doing it, and I just walk. I just walk.
Yeah,
I'm fucking doing. I'm not. I'm out of here. I'm out,
yeah, I won't
and
deal
I
with
just
it.
go. I just and because I'm so uninterested now, so uninterested, like I am with the other timeline. It's like a B movie now.
Hmm.
It's too old and it's played for too long, and that's how I deal with it. That's how I went through. But at the beginning, like when I was more, I went a while just like you, and I would feel it. I'd feel it and go, "That's not who I am. That's not who I am." And then now I just go, "No, I'm out there," and
It's
it just
natural now, right?
yeah, it's a
It's like you don't have
natural
to fight it
process.
anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
it's
don't have to fight it anymore. Your
yeah,
awareness to it is so,
it's
established.
normalized that it doesn't affect you, because
Yeah.
when you resist, it persists. And that doesn't mean you're complacent, guys. If someone come up to me with a knife to kill me or my kids or something, I'm gonna get back at you. It's my
You
job.
better get
I'm,
ready to fight.
yeah,
I'm
fucking
gonna
face
kick
plant,
your ass.
whatever. I'm fighting to the death. It's not love and light, let me tell you. Anyway,
Speaking of love and light,
mm,
Gloria, have you ever had the opportunity to speak to a lady by the name of Nina Roberts?
no,
Uh,
I have not.
she written a book, and she sent me a book, and the title of it is "It's Not All Love and Light." It's a small book, probably about
Yeah,
like about yay
yeah,
thick, and it's a beautiful little book. I'll send you a link to Nina
yeah.
after we're
Send
done.
me a
I'm
link.
sure that you would enjoy that conversation with her. She's
Yeah,
an incredible
yeah.
lady. She's actually based out of the UK as well.
Oh, well, link her up with me and then we'll have a conversation. Because, I'm saying it a lot lately because it's like you've got these false opposites out there at the moment. Yeah. And this false opposite is the love and light.
Mm-hmm.
That is not self realization. I don't like the word awakening, but that's just my truth. You can like it.
I
You're
don't
not
use that
wrong.
word.
Yeah. Self realization. And their love and light, and these people are coming to save us, and nothing's wrong, nothing's bad. Now we know deep down nothing's going on. We know, but we're playing the role. We're
Mm-hmm.
playing the roles of the humans. So I see these false opposites. It really is the same thing. It's the ego. I remember hearing who was it? It was Muji Baba years ago, and I'm going to kill this, but I'm going to paraphrase it and kill it. But he was talking about how self-realization, sometimes people get in the trap. It's their ego, yeah, wants it so bad to fit in and look at me. They believe they're I don't believe I'm self-realized, by the way. I'm consciousness, so I don't have any belief like that. And that's what I call a false opposite. A false opposite. And some beings need to go down that road first before they awaken or come to the realization that we're not these whatever they are now. I mean, they're labeled
Meat
Homo
suits.
sapiens. Meat suit. A meat suit. There you go. We're
The
not the
meat
meat
suits.
suits. We're more than that. Well, let's jump a bit further now. God, time goes too bloody quick. I knew it would.
I just want to
Go on.
quickly add to what you were saying, Gloria. What I find is happening right now is that the old Hopi prophecy that speaks
Yeah.
of the splitting of the two timelines.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening right now is that we're at that split in the road,
Yeah.
right? And the polarity of the consciousness, which is
Mm.
good, and then the polarity
Yeah,
of it
yeah,
is
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
You can't have the light without the darkness. You can't have
Yeah.
the darkness without
Yeah.
the light. So
Yeah.
because it's a polarity, I think what's happening is that the polarity is it's bumping heads like this, right?
Yeah.
The love aspect is bumping with the hate, and it's
Yeah.
it's clashing like that. So I think what's happening, this is that last ditch effort to what we've been talking about of the the energetic shift, right? The great reset, or whatever labels that we want to call it.
Mm.
I think that's what's happening right now, to where some people are walking on this road and some people are walking on this road, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe that's the human experience that you chose for yourself. Maybe
Yes.
that's the role
Yes.
that you want to play in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge anyone for the
No.
roads that they want to travel on, but I do understand, right? I am aware of what's happening
Yeah.
with these roads. I don't like to say being awoke or being awake. It really doesn't describe exactly what's happening. I like to say, I'm becoming self-aware.
Yeah.
More
Yes,
and
good
more
one.
and more
Self-aware is a good
self-aware,
one.
because I'm awoke right now. I was asleep a few hours ago, but I'm awoke right now. Same with billions of people across the planet. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because they're awoke, they're self-aware.
Yeah.
You can be awoke and be robotic, and
Yeah.
be
No, I hear
autonomous,
you.
just going around,
Yeah.
just doing whatever it is that you're gonna
Yeah.
do, like the keyboard mind, for instance.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna do what you're gonna do, and that's it, right? So I don't I don't like to use those terms. Simply, I like to say
I
that
think
I'm
a lot of
aware.
us are trying to. That it's like so many terms have been tarnished. I mean, and a lot of us. I know myself. I'm trying to find new ways to express, and because I say you cannot move forward in a new timeline with new consciousness with the old consciousness and linguistics of it.
That's
You
right.
can't.
That's Gloria, I love you. I say that so much, especially recently. I've been saying that we need to change our language,
Yeah.
right? That we need to come up with different terms and different
Yeah.
labels, because
Yeah.
the new information that we're getting,
Yeah.
we're still trying to label that information with the
Yes.
old paradigm and saying,
It's
okay,
not
well,
gonna
this is
work.
the old language. This is what we're going to do. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, I've been engaged in a conversation about a person's soul. Right. And my argument to that is that we don't have a soul because we're part of the source. And,
Yeah.
as when we go back to the the disco ball light. No,
Yeah.
each one of those lights are not separate. You know, they
Yeah.
might have their own signature to it, but they're not separate. So I keep on saying that we don't have a soul because we belong to the source. We are one, but within that one, we have this unique bandwidth within that frequency
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sets us aside. So
Yeah.
we cannot have a soul, and that soul really is a manipulating word. It's a
Yeah.
it's a hijacked word where, to me, what the word soul represents is that you do this, you'll get rewarded. If you don't do this, your
Yeah.
soul's going to get
Yeah. Yeah.
punished.
I'm with you.
And I
I'm
don't
with
believe
you.
in any of that. I don't believe that there's a judgment. I don't believe
No,
that there's
no, no.
punishment, anything like that. You
I
just
hear you.
simply go
No, I
back
hear
to the
you.
source
I hear you.
and
Yeah.
you re-experience the experience of a
Yeah.
human or a gray or a praying mantis, or whatever the case may be. You
Yeah.
come back as that expression of the source, and then
Yeah.
you're not separate from it. So that's why, I always say we need to change our language, because if we're moving
All the
forward,
time.
then we
It's
need to move forward with our
yeah.
vocabulary as well.
And
Because
it's not easy to
it's
to
not.
to express it. I mean, when I know when I sort of get this infinite information in knowing, and I go, how the fuck am I going to say that? And it's like, you'll find a way. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, but I keep saying it, I can't even, I don't even, it doesn't resonate with me to use certain human concepts, ideas. It doesn't resonate anymore.
Mhm.
It's everything's flipped.
I
And
think that's
I just finished up on what I said on a show the other day. I feel now, when we came in, we were learning to be human, to experience human, and I feel now I'm learning, I'm relearning how to be source. Yeah, and
I like
does that
that.
resonate with you?
It does. It really does, because I think the way I interpret that is that you're not identifying with a particular container,
No.
now a particular label or a particular
Mm.
identity, and taking on the human identity
Yeah,
in itself is a container, right? So
yeah,
when you say I am a human being and I'm having this human experience
yeah,
and yada yada yada,
yeah,
right? Again, you're containing yourself in
yeah.
within a container and
Limited,
limited to that
limited.
intellect
Yeah,
of that container, and you
yeah.
can't go beyond that. You can't go
Mm.
past that. So what I've done is that I've shed all of my identities, I've shed all of my containers, and I don't even um you know identify as a human being anymore. I just simply say I'm having this experience. I am infinite consciousness. I'm all possibilities. Everything that there ever was, ever is, ever will be, that is me. So I don't look at myself as a human being, even though I may appear as one at this particular moment. But really, this is just a costume that I'm wearing,
Yeah,
and
I know.
beyond this, I
I
am
understand
source.
what you're saying. I actually, I'm finding it a blast now.
Hmm.
I have a laugh.
It frees you.
I tell you, I just have a laugh. The joke's on me, and I was playing hide and seek with myself for eternity, and I found out, the one I was looking for was the one looking, and so I can play my role now. But I'm in such, I think it's funny. It's, to me, it's like the play of Layla. God's got a great sense of humor. Put it that way. Um, but you can still play the roles that you're perceived whilst you're still in the meat suit. You
Hmm.
still got the roles. But you don't. I don't take myself serious anymore. Yeah. There isn't. If I try, I start laughing. I don't. For me, I don't fuck up no more. I don't, because there is no such thing, so to speak. And if I do try to, like, for example, I'll sit down and I go, and I'll start going, I'm not doing anything. I'm not lonely. I'm alone. And I go, and I smile first, and I went, shouldn't I be doing something? It's a habit, isn't it? And I start laughing because I have the absolute knowing and recognition. I'm going, shouldn't I be doing something? Because when you're in the identity, what you're supposed to be for the experience, you're doing, and you believe that the identity is doing. So I'm at the stage now, I go, and I just smile. Shouldn't I be doing something? Or I've even tried to get really angry, but can you believe it? I really, and I just start laughing. And so, but how I look at myself now, I look at every other human being.
Mm-hmm.
I look at them and I go, fuck, they're an arsehole. I was that arsehole once, and I move on. Yeah, there's no resistance. There's no offending. There's no, and I go, oh, I was that. That's my mirror reminding me, look what you were like this once. And I go, okay. I don't meet too many arseholes lately there.
Yeah, that's the I was speaking about this yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I'm going through this as most ascended beings on the planet. Yesterday, I actually quoted the wrong person, but it was actually Daryl Anka that we were speaking to at a conference last year, and he was explaining the railroad theory, the railroad track theory, where you have these two roads, kind of like the Hopi prophecy timeline, and as you begin to vibrate at a higher distortion and you consciously begin to change the reality that's before you, what happens is that these two railroad tracks, they just begin to go further and further and further apart, and as they go further apart, you don't you stop engaging with the old, and then the new begins to show itself to you. So now when you were saying about the assholes, I don't see the assholes anymore. It's because the way I'm interpreting is that you're on that railroad track where you're just getting further and further away from that lower emotional energy and going towards that higher emotion, that love energy, and you're responding back with understanding that, hey, I was like that once too, so I can understand where this person is, and I'm sure they will grow and then move forward.
They will grow because their consciousness, they're me. And that's another aspect. I've heard some people, love and light, just say, well, only a chosen few. And I go, hold on. It's one source. So even the arsehole's me. And if I'm going home, so to speak, just use that, so is that one going home too. I can't leave any bits of me behind, for God's sake. I'm one. It's impenetrable, omnipotent, you can't, and people don't even look at it like that. They will say, yes, I'm consciousness, I'm from source, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and then turn around and say, that person there's never going to wake up. And I say, stop it now.
How do you know?
One, that person is you, and if you're going through self-realization, that person eventually, in whatever experience they go, will also, every being on earth, whatever their journey is supposed to be, has to, because it's only one. So if you get me colander over the source, right? So all that happens is one comes back, and eventually it all comes back into one.
That's right.
All comes back. So every being will eventually become self-aware or self-realized. And it's the whole point consciousness says is to experience itself, to know itself, had to create. I mean, we could even go to, biblical scripture in all of them, actually, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and I breathed my breath. And I remember as a child saying, when I was a rebel as a child, and I was saying, so God breathed his breath and made us. And they went, yes, whatever. And you're going to burn in hellfire if you don't do this. And I went, hold on. No, you're going to burn God in hellfire? No. Well, you just told me he breathed his spirit in all of us. We're all in the image, so we've all got this. You're telling me you're going to put God in hellfire?
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's so illogical. So I was a bit like that as a child. So they thought I was the Antichrist, to be honest. But it's logic like that. Sometimes people, we don't use logic. Even when I was an arsehole, I got out of that enlightened bit as a child, and then I went to, as we all do, teenagers, drugs, dancing. I didn't do drugs, by the way. I did do alcohol. Oh God, I was naughty. Had fun, by the way.
Me
And we
too.
go through that period. Everyone goes. You go through. Unless you're, I don't know, you're just here not to have fun. And I can look back now and say, wow, what an experience! What a bloody experience! But yeah, we've slightly digressed, as we will do, me and you. I want to, before we end the show, I want to jump way forward now, Omar.
Before
And
before
you
you do that,
you
Gloria,
wanted to
just
ask
want to
something else. Go on then.
yeah, I just want to quickly say, when you were talking about the God breathing the his breath into us, I see that it really flows with what the way I'm thinking, because the way I'm thinking is that we have consciousness right here, which can be tapped into, and it can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
experienced at
yeah,
particular levels.
yeah.
And then from that consciousness, there's like a mirror effect, like like an experience
Yeah,
program that's there, which we call the mind,
yeah,
right? And then we have the mind, and then we have the body avatar. So we have
yeah.
these three things.
The
So
Trinity.
the body
Trinity.
avatar is connecting with the
Yeah,
mind
yeah.
to experience this human experience. Now the
Yes.
mind will change from species to species to
Yeah,
species,
yeah,
right? But the consciousness remains, and then
yeah,
through the avatar we can connect into that consciousness
yeah,
and experience that consciousness, because all of us have that breath of consciousness within us, right? We have
yes,
that awareness of
yes,
consciousness, but
yes.
that's kind of where it stops, right? Where we
Mhm,
have that breath. In order for us to increase that
mhm,
experience of consciousness, we have to
mhm.
go internal and then tap into that
Tap
consciousness,
into.
go
Yeah,
beyond the mind and
yeah,
into the consciousness,
yeah,
and then experience that consciousness, and then
mhm,
bring it back,
yeah.
into this
Love it.
physical realm.
Love it. Earlier on you mentioned your Trinity,
Hmm.
and I said I have my own Trinity.
Yeah,
That's my Trinity you just explained. That's the analogy I use. Slightly different. I
beautiful.
don't
Yeah.
use the word breath, but I have that when I'm talking with people, to give them, hopefully, to try and help them understand what the fuck I'm talking about. Because
Hmm.
sometimes I can't even understand. It just
I
comes
hear
out.
you. I
Yeah, you know
confuse
what I mean?
myself.
I
So what am
don't.
I talking about here?
Yeah, I can't do this because this is, there isn't no words, there's no language, there's no, and it's like, don't worry. The energy, it's like the energy will speak it. You don't even need the words. But anyway, I'm definitely going to jump ahead now. Stop, you're being naughty, Omar. I want to find out. There was another being I love very, very much as I love you, and it's called Rob, Rob Yox, all right?
Mm,
Um,
Robert.
he's my American gangster because I'm British. Now, I want to know, how did you two meet?
It's a bit of a long story and a short story at the same time.
That's paradoxal. That's
Yeah,
paradoxal. Give me the short
yeah,
version.
I am a good buddies with a guy called Clarence Mitchell
Mm,
from the Closer Encounters podcast. And Clarence
yeah.
and I have been working together for a number of years now.
Mm, mm,
And Rob used to, well, first Clarence used to do his show on, I believe it was like Blogger or,
mm,
something like that. It was an online
mm,
audio podcast. And Rob
mm.
used to call into his shows for years, and they would engage and they would have conversations. And one day I just happened to be doing a show with Clarence, and Rob came on, and then we had a bit of a conversation, and then afterwards I shot him a friend's request, and then we became friends, and then that was it. That was the end of it. We just kind of we really resonated together.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
understood that we
yeah.
have this prior contract before we came here on Earth, and that we
Wow,
have work to do together. And since then,
wow.
we just began creating shows together, began creating events together,
Yeah,
and really communicate on a daily basis. And
mm,
it's really become a part of my family now.
yeah, yeah,
And that's kind of how we connected. And it's the relationship just gets stronger and stronger and stronger,
yeah.
like almost on a daily basis. He's
No,
an
I love
incredible
him.
human
I
being.
I love him, and I remember the first time, because I invited him first onto one of my shows, and when I got him on the Zoom before we recorded or went live, and and I said, "You sound like James Cagney to me," because I'm British, and the old black and white films, and it was the accent, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm from New York," and and he was playing all that, and I just fell in love with him straight away. I love, and it's like I've never seen a gangster. I call him the gangster because he sounds like James Cagney and all the rest of them, and back in the day movies. Talk such beautiful expressions of consciousness, and it's for me. I'm loving it. So if I could sit there and listen to him talk, and I just wondered how the two. That's for me personally, guys. I wanted to know that how you two got together. Omar, where are you two going now? Where are you going now? What are you producing? What have you got in the pipeline? 2020. Where are we? What year are we in?
22. We're in 22, I believe.
2020. All the twos.
Yeah, the 222. I love this year.
So, what are you up to?
Speaking of Rob, Rob and I, with Full Spectrum Universe, have created and are producing and have organized a event, which is running from March the 12th through to the 20th, culminating on the spring equinox. With this event, we've lined up 111 speakers. And we're going to go 12 hours a day from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock p.m., all Pacific time, and feature 12 speakers on a daily basis, end with a panel. We're going to have conscious music, yoga, a lot of meditations, and, just a lot of downloads coming from some very, very intelligent people who've spent years and decades in researching. And that's coming up. And then after that, we have about 8 or 9 events that we're also going to be doing going up into the 22 winter solstice. This is I've been doing Rob and I have been doing these winter solstice events for the past 2 years, working with Stephen and Evan Strong out of Australia. And they're working with elders, the Aborigine elders, and they have a similar prophecy as to the Hopi. And because I believe in their work and what they're doing, we decided to do these events with them. Brilliant. And we did the first one last year, or 2 years ago now. It was called Level Up. And then we did one here in December, which you were a part of. That was the second one. And now we have a third one coming up. The second one that we did was transfer of sacred stones and Atlantean rings and extraterrestrial remains, things like that. And then now the third one that's coming up, it's really going to be epic. And the event that we're doing in March is really based off of what the last previous 2 years conferences have been about this prophecy, because really what we want to do, Rob and I, is take all the information, so to say, like we want to take our cards and just put it on the table for everyone to see. So the intention behind it is to give people the information, the knowledge, and the awareness for them to make their own choice as to the road that they want to walk on or the timeline that they want to be part of. We can't force somebody to do it. We can just take a horse to the water and then it's up to the horse to drink it. Right. So that's really what the intention behind this coming event and these coming, events throughout the year. The intention is exactly that. So we're going to hold that space and we're going to hold that intention until the end of the year, and try to cultivate as much unity and love as we possibly can within our own community and within just the general public at large, and opening up our arms and inviting people into our community so that they can experience what's happening within our own arena, and then hopefully it changes somebody else's mind to help become a seed of consciousness within their own family, within their own community, within their own work, so that we can begin to raise people's self-awareness so that they're aware of themselves, to know that they're divine beings, and that can set forth a ripple effect where we can have love and acceptance and unity throughout the world. So that's really what our goal is, and that's what the goal for 2022 for WatchersTalk really is, and I'm sure that's for Full Spectrum Universe as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's just been a great chat with you. I'm going to have to bring you back on.
I'd love to,
because we could unpack any one of the topics we both love consciousness, so we could go down that road and talk and just stick on it. But knowing us, we digress off here and here and here.
Oh yeah, it always happens.
But that's fun, because I'd rather have a conversation that was organic and natural, and it built up and it just happened. That's the best conversation to have. So thank you so much for coming on. Don't go yet, just stay there. Thank you so much. I'll bring you back on. I tell you what, I'd love to do, get you and Rob on together. That would be fun.
That would be amazing. Let's do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you can
let's
let
do
me
that.
know. You do know I just want to listen to his accent, don't you? But there you
Yeah,
go.
I like listening to his New York accent too.
Yeah, listen to his the way he does it. I'll have to get
that
you
American accent.
Yeah. Get you and Rob on together, and we maybe do a timeline show, talk about the timelines, and about a good topic would be, you know, what we've just discussed today about you can't take the old consciousness with it to project it, something like that.
Yeah, that's
Let's
a beautiful topic.
Yeah, so we'll do that. So just sort it out with Rob when you're free. Let me know, and I'll do the show. It's sorted.
Beautiful. And thank
yeah.
you for having me on your podcast, Gloria. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the space, and
You're
really
welcome.
enjoyed this conversation. It's very organic, from the heart, and I love it. You know, we you know, veer off a little bit here and there, but
and
it's all
you're
connected
awake.
at the end.
You're not recovering. You're awake, and you're because I threatened you, didn't I?
But I didn't take it as that.
Yeah,
I took it as advice from a friend. Don't you come on my show hungover, asshole.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was when I went on your Rob's show, you were hanging. So Rob
I drank a bottle of wine the night before, and I shouldn't have done it, knowing that I had a conference the next day. But you know, it was silly, bad decision on my part.
Bad you. But then
I won't be doing that again.
Not again. I didn't mind because I had the lovely Rob and the accent, you see. But then I met the lovely, is it Leonard? I met Leo.
Yeah, Leonard O'Neill from Orion Rising. He's another great soul.
Oh my God, he's lovely too. Another lovely soul. So, you know, you getting hanging, but do you know what I mean? I just thought I'd shame him on the show. I threatened him. You fucking dare come hanging. You know, I mean, I want you awake and aware, you know, for the show.
Yeah, and I haven't drank anything for since that day. In fact, New Year's Eve, you know, I had a rum and Coke, and I think I took like 2 sips out of it, and I put it down. I was like, no, I don't want this, you know. So I just stuck to my smoke and.
That's it. That's like me. I've sort of given up. I haven't given up the ghost. I've given up the alcohol, sort of. I did have a bait I was away. I was on a little island called the Isle of Wight off the UK.
That's where David Icke lives.
Yeah. I had a Bailey's and ice cubes, just for Christmas Day at my friend's daughter's home. Oh, and it was just lovely. I nearly got hammered just on that, because I hadn't drunk alcohol in so long. I was like, tipsy, you know, and that's all I had. Then I went on a paranormal search in a dark forest after that. Can you believe it?
Fun times.
Yeah, fun times. So thank you everyone for watching Open Minds chat show. A last reminder, I've created an Open Minds podcast. It's openmindspodcast@outlook.com. And the new podcast, I don't know when it's going to start running, but it's about waking the dead, ghost stories, and paranormal. And I'd love for anyone that has a ghosty story, a really good one, or paranormal story, send me an email. I've got quite a few coming through already. I will read them. I will get back to you, and I will select about 6 to do 6 consecutive pre-recorded podcasts. So if you want to change your name because your family or something, we'll change your name as well, and no one will see you. So please send me your story. I can't believe what's coming in already, Omar. I'm like, oh my God, I want to know more. It was, oh, I'm so excited. I experienced that. So I'm just, creating as you do. And on that note, thank you everybody for watching. Until the next time and my next conversation, I'm Gloria, and this is Open Minds Chat Show. Bye for now.